called A Matter of Time. It's written by Shashi Deshpande and it was first published in 1996. Now before going for the review, I want to tell you like how I really started reading Shashi Deshpande's work. So it was in my college when I had a literature course, and in my curriculum there was a short story. There was a short story by Shashi Deshpande, and I was very fascinated by it. I read it and I was like, oh my god, she is so good, and I want to read more of her work, and that is exactly how I started reading more of Shashi Deshpande's work. And I must say she is one of my favorite authors, apart from Anita Desai, obviously. So people who know me, they already know that I love Anita Desai. She has been one of my favorite writers, and I have like this loads of books, like all this area in my shelf, which is like all for Anita Desai's work. So that's exactly how I started. So it's she is kind of similar to her, the writing style itself, and it's for the people who are completely literature buffs. So I would like to recommend it to all those people who love to read literature and they just don't want to read these random books which are like something like not only into rom-com and something like that. They want to read social issues, they want to read about social issues and text which has underlying meaning, which is underlying context, such sort of books. So if you really like such if you are into that genre, please do give this a try. So the thing is, this is an old book. It was as I said earlier, it was published in 1996. So definitely and you understand the social constructs, and it's a very good book. If you were like, you will feel it, her protagonists are empowering, and that's it. So before start, so in this book, so it basically is as typical as Shashi Deshpande's other work. It is again, it boils down to feminism, and it's one of the central idea in this book. The other thing is, the book is basically divided into three parts. So it is I'll just share the basic plot of the book, and later I don't want to give you any spoilers as such. I'll try not to give you spoilers, because sort of my today's video is like, in this review I might give you some critical points which will help you analyze this book from that point of view as well. Also, I will be linking some articles and research papers which like some academicians who have written some articles and research papers on this book, and their perspective of this book and how they really perceive this book. So the critical analysis. So people who are really interested to understand the underlying meaning and want to explore different perspectives, they can definitely just go through the articles. I'll put up in the description box below. So the basic plot of this entire this book is, there's this lady, the main protagonist, which is Sumi, and her husband Gopal. So what happens is, they have three daughters, which is Aru, then is Charu, and then is a Seema. I'm just saying it according to the chronological wise. So Aru being the eldest, then comes Charu, and then comes the Seema. So Gopal, Sumi's husband, he one just random day he decides that he wants to leave the family and he goes away, and the entire book revolves around how they deal with it, how they deal with the fact that how the three daughters also deal with the fact that their father has left them, he has deserted them and he has went away, and he wants to be into this different zones right now. And similarly, how Sumi herself also copes with the situation where her husband leaves her. So the entire book just revolves around that. So the book has an ideology of it covers 4 generations. The main 3 generations I'll talk about. The first is the Kalyani, who is the mother of Sumi. Then we have Sumi, obviously, and then she has 3 daughters, which, as I said earlier. Now we don't really have which is Kalyani's mother, which is Manorama. So we don't really have her in the present context as such. But then she can be considered as one of the main characters. It's not directly a main character, but yes, one of the main characters, because the thing is that she keeps on coming in the narrative. Like everyone keeps on talking about her, especially Kalyani. She keeps on talking about her mother, how her mother was, how her mother treated her. So there's this constant narration about Kalyani. Sorry, constant narration about Manorama. So I would say that she is one of the main characters as such. Then later we have another character, which is Shripati, who is Kalyani's husband. And you'll see when she comes back home, so Sumi, because her husband leaves her and just goes away, there's like deserts her and her 3 daughters. She comes back to her place, which is like her parents' place, the big house, which I think it has a very big symbolism in this book, that the big house, because the family, if you observe the family in the entire novel, you'll realize that it's a very big family. If someone or the other person keeps on coming, you just feel like this house is never empty. There are people coming and going, there are people coming and meeting and stuff, the extended family and stuff. So it's like in the daily life, it's only Kalyani and Shripati living in that house, but then someone or the other keeps on visiting them. So I think it does play a big role, and it is a symbolism, I think. Apart from that, so yeah, so she comes back to Sumi, as she comes back to her parents' place. So we also discover that Kalyani and Shripati have not talked to each other for like good 35 years. And there's some incident behind it which has led to them not talking to each other. Now, this is the basic plot of the book, and please do read it. It's worth reading. You'll enjoy it. And I just loved reading it. I mean, like, I enjoyed it. So I think even you will enjoy it. And obviously, it's Shashi Deshpande, so you will not be disappointed. She doesn't disappoint you. In fact, you will be very impressed, and I think you will be more interested to read her work as well after this book So the main ideology in this book, I would say that the theme covered in this book would say the first theme is death, the idea of death. So I'm not going to explore anything more about it, because that would be like giving away the spoilers right now. So I just don't want to do that. But I'll just say that the ideology of death is very beautifully portrayed in it, and you really start to question the idea that what is that and what happens after that, whether there is life after, what is. So there are certain questions which will come in your mind, and you will start introspecting that. The second main ideology, I think, is also the idea of freedom. Like, we all know that every person has different ideologies and different definition of with respect to freedom. So similarly, you understand that how every character has different perspective regarding freedom, and you start to introspect throughout the novel that yes, what is freedom? Is like what it is, like being having the opportunity, having the right, having the having the opportunity to speak whatever comes in your mind, or it's more than that, or it's lesser than that. So you'll understand these aspects, and you will try to introspect that, so it will help you to analyze and also question things. Then the third ideology, so the very main thing in this book is it's a very gender fluid book. The characters itself are very gender fluid, and especially I would say, so the Kalyani, Sumi and Aru being the daughter. So these 3 characters, you will observe that these 3 characters are moreover masculine in nature. Like, I'm not just saying like physical appearance is masculine as such, but their nature, their behavior, their aspects, their approach towards life, it's more masculine in nature. In fact, all 3 of them are key in the house, and they are one of the strong pillars in the house, and how they actually take up responsibilities. Because as you will see in the book, as Gopal deserts Sumi and her three daughters, it comes to Sumi takes up an responsibility, because she before that she has always been that passive and not an active individual as such. But after, when Gopal leaves her, deserts her, she becomes a very active and very, you can say, a very active individual, and she becomes a responsible. She has that sense of responsibility. She realizes that now she has to look after the family, and there is no one to, help her out with that, and to share the responsibility as such. Similarly, with respect to Aru, so because Aru has her father is not more staying with her, is no longer staying with them, she realizes that yes, even she has to take up the responsibilities and move on with life. So it will also help. It also basically focuses on how Sumi, Kalyani, and Aru approaches their life, and how they are coping up, and how they are moving on in life. In terms of Kalyani, also it's the same thing, as you would say, because as Shripati and Kalyani are not on talking terms since 35 years due to some incident. So Kalyani is that person who keeps on talking, and as you will see, Shripati hardly speaks in the entire novel. I mean, you can hardly see him talking, you can hardly see him expressing his emotions. He is a very passive character, I would say. So and it just then you will realize that it is Kalyani who holds the entire family, she is the one responsible for bringing up her daughters. So she has two daughters, one is Premi and the other is Sumi. So she is responsible for bringing up them, and so again she becomes a masculine, she has that masculine identities where she is responsible for taking care of her house and all. So why I am saying this masculine and feminine identities and associations is because most of the time it is perceived that male characters, or guys or men have that responsibilities over their family. They have to take care of their family, whether it's financially, economically, psychologically, they have the responsibility to take care of their families. But as you see in this book, that there is this gender reversal happening, and you see that no, that Sumi, Aru, and as I said, Kalyani are one of those characters in the power. So as opposed to Shripati and Gopal are very passive characters. So you realize that no, they are associated with more of feminine identities, or feminine, I would say, attributes, because they are passive and they have chose to desert from their life. Because in a way, Shripati also somehow does not lives Kalyani as such, but even he's not talking, and he's hardly involved in the house. So even that way, that in some sense is like deserting your family. Yeah, so this is about the gender fluidity. Now there's this very beautiful article I read with respect to gender fluidity, and about this specific aspect, where you will more, if you read that article, you will understand it in a more detailed way, and you will understand that the book from that specific perspectives. Now speaking of another theme, which is the third main theme, I would say, is also about being about acceptance. So how Sumi accepts the fact that yes, Gopal has left her, how Aru gradually accepts the fact as yes, Gopal has chose to leave, and how Kalyani also accepts the fact that yes, Shripati is never going to talk to her, and that is how it is going to be. So be accepting it and moving on with life, I guess that is also one of the major ideology in this book you will explore. So you will realize that how silence is also beautifully used in this book. I mean, you'll realize that how silence is used as a medium of power, especially with respect to the character of Kalyani. As you will observe her character growth, you will understand that she uses silence as a medium of power, and it is beautifully portrayed, and it's like a treat to read. So that is one aspect. Then there is other thing is the book actually in a very good way and beautifully dismantles patriarchy. There are the women characters are constantly challenging the patriarchy, and they are not the ones, especially Sumi and Aru. They are not the ones. Aru is obviously later on she becomes one, because in the starting of the novel itself you will realize that Aru is someone who really in some way gives attention towards patriarchy, but later on as a novel, as you will explore further and you'll read gradually, you will understand that, you know, over the period of time she realizes that no, she decides that she doesn't want to surrender to the patriarchy. She decides that she doesn't want to surrender to the societal norms, and she wants to moreover be what she wants to do. So there is a sort of sense of freedom she has in her, and the fact that she dismantles the entire female associations, feminine associations. So she is the one who, because after seeing her Kalyani and Sumi's failed marriage, she felt that no, she doesn't want to get married at all, and she also just dismantles the entire ideology and the associations of with female identities. So that is what happens with Aru and Sumi. In fact, from the first itself, from the as you start reading, you realize that Sumi is the one who is one of those powerful, strong character, because she is one of the powerful and strong character, I would say, because because she is the one who constantly keeps on challenging the societal norms, and she's not a person who thinks much about it, but there's just one slight point where you will realize that, oh yes, she does, but then when it comes to action she doesn't. So I think that's hard to explain right now, but if you read the book you will realize that no, yes, she is the one who is constantly challenging the societal norms. uh, Also, the one of the most powerful and strong character in this novel would be the Kalyani's novel, sorry, the Kalyani's character, sorry. So she is one of the strongest character, I would say, because she has sustained a lot of things and she has been through a lot of things, and the way she deals with it, the way the approach she has in life, and the in the last during the end of the book you realize that how she concludes and how she comes to the uh, perspective, that conclusion, that is a treat again to read, because it's very enriching and you feel like yes, she is one of the strongest characters in the book. Also, I would say the fact that I read another article. I have, yes, I will be posting that in the description below. I will be linking it. So it's a PDF. I think yes, it's a PDF. So I think I won't be able to give you the links of the PDF, but I'll just make sure that I'll write the entire title of the PDF, so it will be easier for you to check on Google and you know, try to look for it. So there's this PDF. I guess it's about it talks about how in this book there is this the ideology from despair to hope, like how things gradually in the start, how things look worse and you feel like nothing is going to repair and everything is going like north and south and you don't know what to do, but then in the end you just realize no, you just have that different sense of hope and that positive approach. So how the book approaches, how the book transcends from its journey from despair to hope is also one of the aspects you can explore. Then the very last thing I would like to really talk about is, you see Sumi's character in the third section. You realize that she becomes more and more empowering, and she's the one who is ready to accept more and more challenges, and this happens because of the play she writes in the school. She works in the school and she has a job in a school. She is a teacher, and over there she writes a play which is The Gardener's Son. So how that play becomes successful and she opens up herself to new challenges, and she literally like she starts writing and she explores further different issues, perspectives, and so that is again a very good way, and you'll realize that yes, she is empowering over the period of time. Like, she is already empowered and she is more and more empowering, and she is more and more becoming a powerful person. Now, one of the aspects I would say about Sumi, the character trait which I really liked about it, and it's like a slight, you will realize, because Gopal mentions it about her, that she is a very intelligent and beautiful uh, individual. And in the book you'll realize that how Gopal talks about that she used to steal books. So the fact that she has always been into literature, but then later on she just becomes, like after marriage probably, she just becomes like a person who doesn't want to probably write or explore her hobbies or explore her interests. But how after Gopal deserts her and leaves her, she realizes no, she wants to give herself a chance and open up to new things. And how, so you can see that how it really grows her character development. So all the characters are beautifully developed and how the characters are beautifully written, so you literally feel for each and every character and you have empathy for every character. It's pretty much hard to actually come to a conclusion that who is right and who is wrong, because everything is gray out there. So I think it's again a very I would say it's an interesting state to be in, where you are really trying to understand determine the black and white area. So yes, guys, this was my review for this book, and I hope you really like this video. And I hope my perspectives and ideologies for my analysis for this book would really help you out for your analysis for this book. So I hope I could help you in some or the other way. And if you like this video, please click on the like button, and if you have any suggestions and any feedback for me, please let me know in the comment section below, and share it with your friends. Bye guys, and take care.